flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Today is Thursday, June 12th, 2025, and we are going to be talking into the Idaho 4 case, specifically how it's been a filing frenzy, as my guest tonight, SammyTMafia, mentioned in her email to me. She sent me over a bunch of documents, tells me she has 20 pages of handwritten notes, and if there's one thing about SammyTMafia, outside of her being extremely passionate when she talks about this case, it's that she prepares her butt off. So I am excited to have her on. She had, I believe, her daughter's dance recital tonight, so she's going to be on in about 30 minutes. I told her not to rush home. The Hive can wait. We will have enough Hive Mind finds to dive into before she pops up, and I have some really good Hive Mind finds tonight. So with that being said, I see Squirrel's Nest in here. Sherry, always great to see your name. Dana Rose from Newport Beach. What's going on? I know, Jay. I thought the same thing. I was like, yo, 20 pages. Wow. But shout out to my only mod in the game, Festive 109. Happy birthday, Rebecca. That's awesome. Thank you for spending it with the Hive Mind. Chantelli Lace with the resting biatch face with the RBF. It's hard to not say it out loud. It rhymes too good. What's going on, Jill? Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Rose. I believe that there will be a Netflix show about the Idaho 4. What's up, Lily? Stacy, how are you doing? We got Dawn in here. Best of me, your first live. Well, welcome. Karen, welcome to the Hive Mind. This is the best chat for all of YouTube and TikTok. We go and question everything. We look at all angles. We look through every different lens. We've been diving deep on the Idaho case, but we do it with just about everything. Wait till you guys see the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day. And you got your first live as well. That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. How you doing, Angela? And you guys know what's coming next. The Hive stretches far and wide. Many different countries, many different states. I've yet to see Antarctica. If anybody knows anybody that's living down in the ice wall, let me know. But where is everyone tuning in from? Oklahoma. We got middle of nowhere, Ohio. I have to point this out every time. This is not Doug Wilson from the church. Actually, the last time you were on here, SammyTMafia, like I said, she messaged me. She goes, "Oh my God, I think it was him." Nashville, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Melbourne, Australia. Shout out to the Hive down under. Connecticut. Howdy. North Carolina, ATL, my brother. ATL, Drew in the house. Georgia, go Dogs. Dallas, shout out to the Midwest. Shout out to Mama Tina from my home state. We got New York. Someone said War Eagle when they don't play Bama. Well, I agree with that, CJ. Kentucky, Indiana, New Zealand over the ice wall. See, that's the type of comment that I'm looking for in response to when I say that. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Asia. That might be our first person from Asia in here. Welcome. Bianca is also from the Down Under Hive, Jersey, Cali, Idaho. We got a lot of Australians. Tacoma, England, Nashville, Michigan, New York, Chattanooga. Brooke, good to see your name again. Albuquerque, Boise. April's husband went to Antarctica. He worked there 6 months out of the year. Well, I wonder if your husband has classified security clearance. That would be interesting to know. Tammy's out in the Midwest. Mama Tata. I can never remember, but they both work, right? Arizona, Planet of the Apes. Love whenever that pops up. Oh, Hive. That is so creative, and I actually love that. That is awesome. Well, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I always enjoy seeing where everybody's tuning in from. Like I said, the Hive is stretching far and wide, and it's awesome to see so many people who can logically bridge build and freely think and not be afraid to do it. So cheers to everybody that's in here tonight. I have one announcement. I was talking about the survivor of trafficking, Kelly Peterson. Let me make this bigger for you guys. So I originally was under the impression that we were going to stream these to both channels. However, after having a conversation with some folks on Kelly's team, we are going to do 2 separate episodes where I'm going to go over onto her channel. So this is where you can find myself and Kelly this upcoming Sunday. Oh, that should say June 15th. Sorry. That's this month. I'll change that right now. Oops. So that is June 15th, this upcoming Sunday at 4 p.m. Central. It'll be live on Surviving the Truth. The handle is Surviving the Truth 1382. And I have a little bit about Kelly here because her story is absolutely incredible. And she is, it's the real deal story, folks. I guess that's all I can say about it. But here's a little bit about Kelly. While shame and pain kept her quiet for years, Kelly's journey of healing and freedom from sex trafficking are giving her a loud voice today. Having survived the unsurvivable, her skills come forth in maneuvering the difficult arena of a very painful subject matter. Her courage to walk into a crowd and discuss this controversial subject is a communication gift that she excels in. Her tenacity to see others freed keeps her pushing through the most difficult of obstacles. Kelly has traveled to hostile and distant areas to carry her message of freedom. Kelly was trafficked in and from the heartland of the USA and taken to distant places. Her experiential knowledge of how trafficking operates in the Midwest is incredibly valuable to those hoping to make a difference in this very real war. She details her captivity in the dark world of sex trafficking / commercial sexual exploitation and the journey out in her book, From Trafficked to Treasured, which I did do some research. It is available on Amazon, and I believe it had the Kindle link as well. So that'll be this Sunday. And then Kelly is kind enough where she's going to come onto my chat this live, probably the second or third week of July. So that will be awesome. And I'm going to get to interview her, and we will be able to, as the Hive, hear Kelly's story and get to ask her some questions. So it's incredible that she's so forthright in talking about this. And the reason why her team had reached out is that a lot of times human trafficking doesn't really get talked about in the quote unquote true crime community, right? So obviously trafficking happened. It's true. Trafficking is a crime. And I think that what she is trying to do by spreading the word through these type of shows is very, very awesome. So that is this Sunday, as I said. Hopefully you guys will all tune in. If not, I'm sure the replay will be posted. But again, it's Surviving the Truth is the YouTube channel. So I just wanted to plug that. All right. So, Phoenix, I had sent you a screenshot of this. The Hive came through, and they were able to find the location of the luminol photo that we were looking at last night. And it looks to be right here. We were pretty spot on. I think we were a little off where I was zoomed in on. I think I was right here. I could be wrong. But somebody also sent me an entire Google photo album that has all of the crime scene photos, and it's dated and it's wonderfully put together. So thank you for that. But that is how quick the Hive works. When Phoenix put out the request, if anybody in the Hive could please try and find that and just kind of have the, there's no question, this is definitely where it is. You guys rock for that. There was actually about 3, maybe 4 people that also sent similar stuff to this. So that's awesome. Yeah, let me clarify. Crime scene photos. Thank you, Allie. Crime scene photos, like just meaning like pictures from right after it happened, when police are on scene, students are around, all the way through to Brian Koberger's. It's like a working photo album of events. So yeah, thank you. That's probably a very needed clarification. I do not have like the crime scene photos. Yeah, let me clarify that. And now this other one is, you can see this Marshall badge clear as day, chat. So this photo, I've never seen this photo before. The only time that I've ever seen the quote unquote cowboys was when they were walking out towards the news anchor and they had blurred it out. But this is clear as day. Phoenix, who lived there? Let's see, because Phoenix said, guess who lived in that specific unit? Oh, she just said, holy freaking moly. Yeah. Pretty incredible. It's how long after this all happens. And I personally enjoy going back through and looking at the photos of what we thought was happening versus now when we know what did happen and looking back at them. I've talked about that a couple times, going back to the beginning. So I thought that was really interesting. Now, this is also very interesting. This was like a last second one that I included. I got the email after I'd already got the slides done for tonight. And on the left side here is what the email wrote. I'll read it to you guys if you can't see it. It says, Birdie, I was looking at Autumn G's TikTok page today, and she was talking about her sister bringing her breakfast every day. And when she was going through a hard time, well, I thought it would be a picture of Kaylee, but instead it's Maddie. What if SG really is Maddie's dad too? Just caught me off guard because I was expecting to see Kaylee. And up top here on this photo, it Said my sister would drive to me every day in the prime of summer as a teenage girl when all her friends were at the beach and partying, doing stuff much more fun than I was, with breakfast and a drink, and sit with me all day so I didn't go back to him, so I was never alone. That pretty much sums up who she was as a person. So it is odd because there are and I agree, D Smalls, because Maddie looks so much like both her mom and dad. However, I don't know, man. I just yeah, it is interesting. Who knows? That would be crazy because there's interviews for sure where SG does typically tend to bring up Maddie more. No other. I don't think SG. This is actually a real question, chat. Has SG said another roommate's name outside of Maddie's? And I just also noticed that SammyTMafia is backstage, chat, so she'll actually be able to get up here for the last couple of Hive Mind finds. And here she is. Hey, SammyTMafia, how are you doing?
Oh, nice and sunburned.
You're out in the sun?
I was out in the sun all weekend. I took my daughter to Darien Lake. It's like a Six Flags theme park. And then I was gardening. So don't mind. And then I went to a baseball game.
Oh, nice. Nice. How was the recital?
It was good. It was the dress rehearsal. It was so cute. And my daughter's just super talented. She's in acro, like all the flipping. I couldn't even do, I don't even know if I can touch my toes at this point. So I'm super proud of her. She's such a talented little kid. Not even little anymore. She's going to be 13 in 2 days. Oh my God. I'm going to have a teenager. Chat. What do I do?
Chat, am I cooked?
Don't send them to the University of Idaho.
Yeah, facts. Jesus H. Well, thank you for popping up here tonight, Sammy. I know everyone's excited. I'm excited. I have a couple more Hive Mind finds, but obviously chime in whenever you see fit. I was sent just like a Google photo album is how I was describing it, of like a working photo album of like, this is when it happened. Here are photos from this. Here are photos from this press conference. Here are photos from when they were taking the victim's belongings out, all the way down to like trial stuff. Okay. So I was scrolling through and I'm looking at these dates. Okay. So they remove the victim's belongings on December 7th. Okay.
And are we even sure that that's what those are? You know, like we have where's the logs? Like, well, I had a problem with the fact that the things were boxed up together, because I would think if you're taking things out of a crime scene, everything would have to be individually gone through and packaged. And just in case the guy, if you don't know where he went in the house, then who's to say he wasn't in everybody's room looking for something? So that's why I just thought it was so odd that why are we removing bundles of stuff together? Shouldn't you be parsing through every piece of everything if you don't know where he went? Oh, I'm sorry. Your audio.
Now it should be better.
Okay. There we go.
I think I was a little quiet to the chat. Hopefully that's better. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's where I think a lot of people will think that like planting evidence takes this giant conspiracy and coercion between people. It takes one cop.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So what I was showing this for was because, okay, so if we take it at face value, which I know we don't really ever do here in the Hive, but December 7th, they move out the belongings. December 6th, we've all seen it. They load a bloody mattress, or what people thought, into the back of a damn F-150.
And let's not forget, they didn't do anything for the mattress. Like they didn't, even though there's a blood stain on it, nothing was done to the mattress. None of that's in evidence.
Yeah. You know, I was zooming in on all of this. Okay. Like, don't get me wrong. It definitely, if it passes as a blood test and it is blood, it looks like there's blood, right? But I also thought about like, were they like, was it like the fitted sheet? That's a dark colored fitted sheet that's wadded up and thrown on there. That's kind of being seen through that, kind of like that microfiber, whatever kind of.
Oh yeah, like a
put around it.
Mm-hmm.
So that, again, that's like, I don't know, but it definitely looks, you can see the darker spots. I put these together because then on February 24th, the house gets boarded up. And then all the way now in summertime, the disaster recovery truck is there with a tarp over it.
Yeah.
And the house is boarded up. My question is, this happened November 12th, November 13th. Yep. What the hell still has biohazard? Because if you look at what a disaster relief company is usually called in for in a homicide house, what are they having to tarp off so that people don't see still in June?
I also just didn't understand what, I know that they were taking 3D imaging. So they were doing LiDAR and 3D imaging. I don't know if that requires a tarp, but again, maybe it's what they were taking pictures of that they don't want you to see. I can't, for the life of me, I don't know, because the date is so much further into the future from the last time that they were all in the house collecting evidence, essentially moving day.
It looked like moving day if they didn't have badges on.
So I don't know, but it kind of reminds me of, like, you know, the shitty Karen Reed case where it's like 18 months later, you're now just talking to the plow driver who's in front of the house.
Is that really how long it took till first contact?
18 months.
Wow.
They didn't talk to some people who were in the house that night for about 18 to 20 months.
Yeah, I didn't know that the plow driver, because that would have been the first thing I would have thought of is, hey, let's talk to all the plows and let's see if somebody was on there, because that was an initial thought was, you know, he got struck by a plow.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were going to blame it on Lucky Loughran, to be honest with you. And then when they saw her bumper, they changed the plan. I think he was going to be the patsy.
Yeah. Well, the other reason too, to just cap this off quick, I think a lot of people thought like that this was when the bodies got taken out if they didn't see the rest of the photo. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there was like, well, they covered it and you couldn't see it. And there could be another photo of this, but this is not when the bodies were taken out. Obviously, this is in June, but it's just odd because I started thinking, okay, so they took the bodies out, then they took all their belongings out.
Mm-hmm.
Then a month later, they take the mattress and all the stuff with blood out.
I know.
Then they board it up. Then the disaster. It doesn't make any sense as far as how they structured it.
And don't forget, at some point on December 19th, or 20th, I forgot which date it was, they sent in the cleaning crew and then they got sent back out, the HVAC company.
Yep.
So, yeah. I mean, the whole thing makes, I always say, I'm like, if you were to look at this, the way that they were looking at the Karen Reed case, like an accident reconstructionist, if you had to be a homicide reconstructionist, go. First principles, how did this happen in this time frame with these injuries the way you're saying? Like, there has to be a physical possibility of this being one person, all these rooms, the lack of DNA evidence. So first principle, if you can't get there, then the rest of this is all nonsense.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. And in addition to all of that, 2 surviving roommates who allegedly saw the killer, going back to the original, PCA and everything. But all right, now this one is, I'm going to get my tinfoil hat, Sammy.
Uh-huh. Oh, for real? Like a for real tinfoil hat. I thought that was like an expression.
Oh, no, I actually went and got it. Yeah. Which,
that's so great.
Yeah, these are Mrs. Birdie got these hooked up on birdieBombshell.com. If you guys want to grab a tinfoil hat. Yeah, she's been crushing the merch for the Hive.
I would love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
would wear
okay.
that all the time. I wish I had that for the baseball game. And I ended up having to buy a fucking hat for so much money because I was just being sunned down on. Look at my face. I'm so burnt. It's ridiculous. I wish I had my tinfoil hat. That would have been great.
Yeah, I would. You know what? We can get it hooked up. That way, when you're a guest on the show and you want to say some crazy shit, if you have this on and people watch it, they're
I'll
like,
be
"Oh,
wearing it
he's
most
already."
of the time.
Yeah, Sammy hasn't taken your. Your daughter starts yelling from the background. Mommy hasn't taken that hat off in months. Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, I put this hat on. I put this hat on because everybody has seen this photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'm sure most people have recognized this rusty pipe above it as well.
Right.
On an older house, there's some people that speculate and people that I think we had a contractor, a home contractor in here that said, he's like, that's rust. He's like, that's not unusual to see on foundations of home. Now it is, of course, one of the rooms where some of the victims are found, but he was also saying that it's like, it would have to be so much blood, which again contradicts the 911 call, contradicts walking past all the roommates. So you guys see where I'm going with this. But to drip through, even in an old house, of the foundation, the subfloor, all the wall, the insulation,
Trust me. Think about, for example, like if you run a bath and it just keeps running, you fall asleep in the tub or something, that it takes a little while for that water to start falling through to the second floor and like down into the ceiling where you start seeing condensation on the ceiling, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And water's a lot easier than blood to get through and seep through cracks. So I think this is possibly a blood stain on the outside of the house. Like somebody leaned up or fell down and they didn't wipe it up.
Okay. So I put this slide as a separate slide from what I'm about to show you because somebody in the Hive sent me this. I had this idea. I go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch the body cam footage from the noise complaint when the cops walk around the back. And I'm going to go see if this damn stain and the drips were already on the house before. And that, maybe this is just one of those pictures where they're going to go ahead and they're going to let it ride in the media. Well, so Hive, just wait.
You got to be kidding.
That's why I have my tinfoil hat on. Okay. So what do you guys notice? So I took these screenshots. What do you notice about all this area? It is all blurred and it's like you did the Photoshop tool all around.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I'm going to play the video and you guys are going to see it.
It reminds me of the body cam footage in the Banfield when they started doing that.
Yes. And also, chat, I know this is weeds. I'm talking about even up here. Look at the house. Look at the siding.
That's a blur tool. It looks like they
there.
filtered the house, like when you filter your face.
Yes. And let me show you this. Let me show you how easy this can be done. So I will go to...
They actually did a horrible job. If you just like look at those pictures, ... that like 1, 2, 3, they did a terrible job.
Let me... where is the blur tool? If I can do that. Well, let me just show you this. I'll do it with an eraser instead. Watch this. So if I do this and I wanted to cover it up and I erase it.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at how easy I can do that. Now, if I start going multiple, look at how good that is.
Oh my God.
This is on a free app, everybody.
You can make it almost look like a crack.
Yeah. Look at that. But now watch. When I overdo it, this is what I've learned. I'm going to overdo it. And I want you guys to see
what happens.
You see that, chat? It starts to get a little blurry. Now, I did a lot there. But my point is that
I see your point.
Yeah. I want to show you. That kind of looks a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, because the siding. Yeah. Oh my God.
Look at this. That's what I'm talking about, everybody. And it's in every photo. These are 3 different times that I screenshotted it.
Plus, you want to know what? We never heard
Look
of blood samples taken from the outside of the house. Like, there's no evidence of that. There's no document stating, oh, yeah, and we have the blood evidence from the concrete outside of the house. So they just use that for a narrative tool.
Exactly. So my whole point is that look at in all of these photos, it is literally the same as what I just did.
And by the way, they use that for a narrative tool when it suited them. And now that it doesn't, because now we have to say that, oh, they were covered in blankets. They couldn't see blood. So now we stop talking about the blood from outside of the house.
Look at
oh my
that
God, that's
shit.
insane.
Are you kidding me?
It looks like somebody like if you threw somebody in dust, like a chinchilla spinning in dust and it's just all flying up in the air.
Well, and to Sammy's point, what like here is your thing about if it was blood on the outside, right? Okay. Chat. They have this entire thing blurred out like this because they said we're just going to cover that whole wall. We don't want any angle when the cop's body cam goes up or to the side or whatever. So I'm going to show the video.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Because and people are asking, but why though? Because if those drips were there 3 months before the stabbings, it wasn't blood.
And then how many news stories would look insane?
Exactly.
And by the way, now that the narrative has to shift because we can't have that much blood, because then what were the roommates doing if they saw them in the bedrooms?
Exactly.
So now the whole story goes away as if that didn't happen.
Yes. So I'm going to put this full screen for everybody. And I'm telling you, there comes a time when law and crime, their damn watermark or their logo goes right over when it would be absolutely perfect. But I'm going to play this for everybody.
Sorry, you can always call us later and ask in case it gets turned in here. It's our business line.
Sweet, thank you.
You bet.
Now pay attention. I'm going to do my best to pause it. Notice how it is very...
No one's coming to the door.
Okay.
Bright out. I pause it here. There's really not much.
There's so much vegetation, but it was wintertime. So all of that would have been dead.
Well, it's 3 months. So that's technically, it would be end of August.
But like, again, look at all this. So if you were to have to run past it or something, I just can't believe not a speck of blood got on any of this.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, I have all the, we can go through those crime scene photos after this too, real quick. Go here. It's just look at it's very visibly blurred. And it stays like that.
Wow.
It's and that damn logo.
Yeah.
I know.
Actually, what I'm going to do is do it this way.
I mean, you got a good shot right there.
Yeah, but hang on, I'm going to...
And the weeds are covering it, I think.
Yeah, but that's right where it would be, right? Right on the left side of their logo. Oh,
yeah,
just
we're about.
See?
I see. Look. There's a little, like, at the bottom of it. If you can, like, right at the little bit of the bottom, you could see kind of the end of the streak.
So, exactly. Now, what we're seeing, I believe, is this. Oh, hang on. So, I think that this dark spot is the dark spot of the concrete that's there, not the drips. But I mean, guys, that's zoomed in on my end, not making it blurry. Like you could see the pixels here. This is blurred out.
Yeah.
You're saying that's not the wall. I get that, but it's blurred out.
Right.
You would see weeds then.
Yeah, just like the tool that you just did.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was something. So you're telling me that this wall is not the wall that had the blood on it? How is that the wrong wall?
Probably because when the
Isn't this
pictures
the
were taken, the pictures were. I don't. Oh yeah, he's right.
Because isn't that right here?
Yeah,
then?
that he's right.
Yeah. See? Yeah,
he
it's
said
correct.
around the corner. What other wall would there be?
Yeah, there's nothing. That's probably the same people that's like, we can't hear you. Your volume's off. We can't hear you. It's probably Viviana Marie, our favorite troll, on her 5th profile. Okay,
Well, that's interesting.
Lindsay, it is not in the front. It is not in the front. And I'm done. I'm done. It's not the wrong wall. It's not.
No.
It would be right.
What other
here.
wall would it?
There's
what other
not.
wall would it be?
It's not. Where are the other posts with a deck? Except
Yeah,
for there.
that lines up perfectly, like angularly, if you're looking at it with those posts.
Yeah, where's my one mod in here? Come on. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding. All right, let's get back to this stuff. So anyways, I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
Now, this last one, this is a super long one, but this is from somebody who's just walking around all over.
I saw that.
Yeah. So these are those apartments. He walks all up behind the house.
So many places to hide. Or like do surveillance, you know?
Right. I mean, I'm just going to click through it. We're not going to watch the full 12 minutes. But like you can see.
That's like very steep.
Yeah.
It's a lot steeper than I thought.
So I believe this is the parking lot above their house.
Mm-hmm.
No,
yeah.
this is also not Seagirl's video. This is I'll get you guys the name. It's I can't even read it.
I mean, the house could be surrounded by so many different things because you have the Linda Lane on one side, you have that backyard slopey parking lot, you have Sigma Chi across the way. It's just
Neo Favos, I believe, is the username. Thank you, Sarah. He burped.
yeah. And you could have like, since it's pitched up like those apartments, you can like look down into the property.
Yes, exactly. And also, Amy, Mrs. Birdie has been putting all of the Hive Mind finds on birdiebombshell.com, so you guys can go check them out. There's a K-bar right there. Could you imagine?
Could you imagine? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They left a glove sitting in front of the mailbox for a month.
So I'm just going to skip ahead. I mean, so yeah, this is just a good video on like everything in the area.
I'm surprised at the lack of surveillance of, people having Ring doorbells. But again,
Well-
if you have something shutting off the internet and then it
And-
closes that ability, then you wouldn't.
Well, and if all of those cameras are on houses that are owned by an LLC, it's like the same thing when the feds tried to go and get Apple to unlock everyone's phone for the investigation. Like, dude, we're a private company. We're not doing that. It's kind of a very similar thing.
Yeah.
All right, Sammy. Let's get into the filing frenzy, shall we? I can zoom in on all of these if you'd like.
So crazy. Yeah, start on anyone.
All right. Let's get out of this and
so we could see what's going. And it's so funny because it's like you're trying to figure out when you're like reading these filings, like, what does this mean? What is the result of this? And everything is sealed, but you can kind of get an idea what's happening. Okay, so this is the court is having before it the motion to seal stipulation and order for admission of additional exhibits and good cause appearing now. Therefore, it is hereby ordered that the parties' stipulation for admission of additional exhibits as evidence at trial and its corresponding order shall be filed under seal pursuant to ICAR 32I, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
I told them that you got some notes. They were,
yeah. I got some notes.
Somebody goes 20 pages. Yo.
So basically what this is saying, just so everybody can understand, is the court is approving that the parties came to an agreement, the stipulation. That means they're going to allow the introduction of additional exhibits into evidence. Specifically, the court is granting a motion to seal the stipulation. So both parties, both the defense and the prosecutors are saying, yes, we will seal this, keeping it confidential, and it's approving the stipulation for admission of the exhibits. They agree to seal, and they both agree that in the case that they both consent to the introduction of new exhibits into evidence. And when they say good cause appearing, that means this phrase indicates that the court found sufficient reason or justification. So the court finds, okay, I'm in agreement. Both parties are in agreement. Everybody's happy with this order, apparently.
And does it have to state what specifically the purpose of it would be as well in that filing?
Meaning, so basically what it's saying is that they both agree to seal the order. So like whatever's in the additional exhibits, we're not going to know. Both parties are saying we're not showing this to the public, so you can't FOIA request it. You won't get to know until trial. This is like the name of the game right now, because if you notice, everything is both parties are agreeing to seal pretty much everything, even though I thought we were going to start unsealing things. I remember, don't you remember Hitler saying something at one point, like, we have to stop doing this, but it's gotten worse.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think like the kind of the term that you coined, like the filing frenzy, is very accurate.
Somebody said Pokey Dots. How can an attorney from San Francisco be on this case? It's called pro hoc vice. So when you want to be a attorney, whether it be a special prosecutor or come into another case, you have to be allowed by that judge in that court. So you have a pro hoc vice order. That's how, like, Alan Jackson in the Karen Reed case, he's an attorney from California, but he was given permission. And Mark Betterow, who's from New York, tried to be on the defense system. He got the pro hoc vice, and then the judge denied his pro hoc vice. So she said, no, you can't be on this case. So it's up to the judge.
What was the other word that you used? It was like prima
facie evidence.
Yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah. Okay, this goes with one of the orders. Okay. So, hold on. Let me get that. Here's a corresponding order, public action. hold on. Boop, boop, boop. State supplemental previous compliance.
Yeah, I want to talk while you're looking for that. I think
Mhm.
Nick might have just hit the nail on the head. He goes, after what you just said, it's like, that's because whoever did it isn't behind bars.
Right. Oh,
I mean,
that's
it's
it.
so obvious.
Well, most of the time when you're sealing something, it has to do with either federal information like state secrets, or it's privacy concerns or confidential information. So it's got to be one of the three. Why would you be having privacy secure like concerns? Like most witnesses and evidence is all pre-trial, and we know what's coming in and what's coming out. There's no surprises. I've never seen such sealing in my life.
I don't think many cases that on its face what it is, meaning a quadruple homicide by a lone perp in a college town, have.
No.
I can scroll through these and you can tell me when to stop if that's quicker.
Okay, I'm just looking up. Hold on. Okay. Issuing a defendant motion related. Okay. Well, I'll do for the motion. So the one that's the state's motion in opposition to the defendant's motion to continue, because this was a big one. Basically, the defense wants to get more time because of these leaks. Like, we're having a whole separate investigation on top of what's already happening in this case, which is insane because they have to figure out, could a jury be impartial or not based on the leaks? And how detrimental were these leaks to his rights, and how prejudicial are these leaks? So we're still in the middle of that. And because of that, the defense wants more time and said, I am not going to be able to give an adequate defense for my client because we don't even know yet the ramifications. We haven't even finished this investigation into this. So
do you know which document it is?
Yeah, it's the
Probably.
state's motion in opposition to defendant's motion to continue.
Oh, okay. Let me just look so people can read it as you're going in on it.
So the state is arguing that previous cases with similar circumstances, they don't want that to be considered when the court decides the defense's motion to continue, and not consider if the current court can find enough impartial jurors. So the state's basically saying, ignore precedent. We know that there's precedent in circumstances similar to what's happening with leaks and prejudicial evidence leaks. But hey, judge, just ignore those. We don't want you to consider those other cases, okay? And the defense's argument is because of a previous high-profile cases, the public may have preconceived notions about the current case, making it difficult to find an unbiased jury. The court's response is he hasn't decided yet. But basically, just because other cases did doesn't mean that this one will. So the defense has to have concrete evidence. It has to be specific that this finding about impartiality and jurors not being able to be impartial is, you have to give a specific example of it. So one of the things that a judge can do is order a voir dire, like a more instead of just a jury questionnaire, he's going to have to individually voir dire jurors and ask them a lot more questions about what they know. That could be a remedy. The state's arguing that all the discovery deadlines have passed, so we should just go to trial. Like, all these dates that he set forth are passed. So what's the problem? The problem is you leaked information. So you put a little bit of a bump in the road, bro.
Yeah.
Like, we would be happy to go to trial, but you were busy leaking information. Now we have to deal with this, and they're acting like this is the defense's problem. They weren't leaking information.
Right. And the thing that is so hard for me to wrap my head around is, again, you would think if you're really about to put this on to somebody that it's not, or if you truly believe that it's this man who's on trial, why would you ever risk the defense getting handed a literal, hey, here is something that we're going to mess up for you on a platter by having it leaked to Dateline? Or like, and it's not just like Steve G or whoever leaked it to Dateline. It's not like that was the only time that this has happened.
Right.
Like,
And that's what the defense is saying. We don't even have the full picture of what this means for our case, for our client. So let's play this out with the special prosecutor and figure out how badly this biased potential jurors before we go to trial. I mean, so then the state's saying, oh, the pretrial conferences already happened. The deadlines are passed. Too bad, so sad. And they're saying that Brian Kohberger's is seeking an unspecified trial continuance, claiming an incomplete mitigation investigation. Basically, the court hasn't done enough to mitigate what these leaks are and figure out who's leaking and how much of an effect they're going to have on the trial. So let's deal with this mitigation first, and then we can go to trial. And the state say, no, you've had enough time.
well, also, if he's saying that, I think he used like whatever, that the court's not doing enough. There was a word that you said before, I can't remember, but it's like the defense is arguing the state's not doing, or the court's not doing enough to prevent leaks. And the state says, no, you had enough time. How does it premiering on effing Dateline not justify that the court is not doing enough?
Well, the court is doing the right thing by having this mitigation investigation and ordering on-camera reviews with the state of pieces of evidence. But the problem is this is going on while they're trying to prepare for trial. So they're juggling two balls. They don't have a government behind them. They're just defense attorneys. They're a small team. So you want them to go through terabytes of evidence that they're never going to be able to comb through. They wouldn't be able to do it in 30 years. You want them to now deal with these mitigation hearings, on-camera reviews, ex parte meetings, and then you want to be mad at them and say, no, we have to have the trial at this date. What's the problem? What's the problem?
Well, and I want to talk about what Marco, I got the comment pinned, Sammy. Do you have any ideas why the defense may have, quote unquote, given up on the alibi months ago? Because I think Marco might be arguing that Taylor's just not ready, right? So again, this is more of a discussion-based thing. So
I think that she's been fleshing out different angles, but every time she comes close to fleshing out an angle or getting somewhere, something happens that takes her attention away from what she's doing and like what path she's on. She has to stop and go do the alternative suspects, or the state files a motion that she has to now respond to. Then she has to make motions to seal, that she has to ABC. So they keep making her jump through hoops at the same time she's trying to prepare for this defense. And now we have this mitigation circumstance on top of it. So,
yeah.
So what the state's going to argue is that probably if the defendant's motion doesn't have specific detail, meaning if you can't prove, but the mitigation investigation isn't over with. So yes, their motion's going to seem vague about impartiality and biased jury because you haven't had the entire investigation fleshed out yet. That's why they're saying, let's have a continuance.
I agree with that. I agree that it's what Phoenix just said. Like they keep moving the goalpost. I do feel, and also Wade too just said, like the prosecution's goal is to muddy the waters. I think that our first real insight to just how bad it is. I remember the first time that I saw when Ann Taylor was talking about the chain of custody with the DNA after it left Othram. Do you remember that video clip? And she's looking at the judge almost like she's kind of like, oh shit, we don't have it. I think she found out that hearing.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's got to be like a deer in the headlights moment for her of, oh man, like they're not playing.
There was a few of those pre-trial. There was a few of those. So what the judge has is obviously judicial discretion, which means he's going to have to balance fairness and efficiency. when it comes to this motion of continuance. The judge is going to have to sit there and say to himself, okay, the burden of proof is on the defendant now to prove that whatever these leaks are going to bias a jury pool so much so that we're going to need to hold off until we figure this out. So he might need additional time, but is it potential delay tactics? The judge has to consider that as well. Is the defense just doing this for delay tactics? Is the defendant's attorneys being diligent to prepare for trial in order to ask for this continuance, which I think obviously they have been.
Right.
And then is there enough specificity in the request for the continuance? Meaning if it lacks specification in the defendant's motion regarding the missing evidence and how it would be obtained, may weaken their request for the continuance. So you're going to have to like say, we need to find this out. And that's why we need this continuance. Basically saying the stuff about the leaks. We need to see how far this bleeds out into the prejudicing our case. And then the judge can deny it. He could grant it, or he could give a limited continuance, which is, I think, what he might do. It's like splitting the baby. He might allow for further investigation of a particular identifiable issue. So if that's like splitting the baby, basically saying, okay, on this issue and this issue, like something in the leaks that are obviously prejudicial, we figured out what they were, we know the issues, we'll allow a continuance in order to further deal with this issue on these two specific things. That's what I think he might do.
What do you think those two things are?
I think it depends on who's doing the leaking.
Yeah.
And how they got the leaks, especially with the 911 call.
Well, the 911 call, and then also we noticed that Steve G's lawyer was the only lawyer present when they had that hearing about, or the meeting.
the
About the Dateline leaks.
meeting.
Yep. So, I mean, to me, that has to be one of them, right?
I would think so. I would think Steve has something to do with this, and his attorney, because like they said, they set up their own investigation. Remember? Now, part of me is wondering, do you think that because Steve was so critical of the investigation in the beginning, like the most vocally critical one in the beginning, and that tune changed? My thought is, if you're a behavioral analyst and you're like, this guy is running his mouth and we don't like it, what if we decide that we're going to start talking to him more? We're going to start feeding him things to make him feel like he's special, he's in the loop. That'll shut him up and placate him. So they're leaking misinformation to Steve, because a lot of the things he says aren't even true. So where is he getting it from? And my thought is, what if they placated Steve like a patsy by giving him false information, by giving him bullshit to keep him happy, to make him think like he's in the loop, and then all of a sudden he changes his tune? Like they just used him like a patsy.
What if they used him because they knew that this case was going to fall apart and they could be blamed on that leak from him versus law enforcement doing a bad job or having missteps?
Plus, it's a lot harder to come down on a leak if it's a parent of a victim.
Oh my
So
God.
It's a perfect patsy to leak misinformation to, or to leak your narrative that you want out there to play out, because who's going to be the one to say, hey, dad, your murdered kid, stop talking?
God, that is a different level of like nefarious intent planning by the state.
Not saying it's true. I'm saying that's just a thought I had. Because specifically when his opinions shifted so drastically and he became such a singer of a different tune, seemingly out of nowhere, the most critical vocal person became the most pro-state, pro-investigation, pro-anti-Koberger person when he was more open-minded. So something must have happened. And what I think happened is they started feeding him leaks to keep him happy.
Do you know what I find weird about on both sides, on the leaks?
Mhm.
And I would put like the leaks and the people who think that he's 100% guilty in the same camp for this example. And then the people like ourselves
Mhm.
that are like looking into stuff, they're diving into it. Again, whether we're right or wrong, like again, even with like the rust or the blood on the wall. Like, guys, we're obviously looking through screens trying to just talk about it and speculate it and see if we pick up on something. But what I'm getting at is like, how has, with all of the stuff that's been uncovered by like sleuths, how has not one of those things made it into a Dateline documentary type thing? How has not one of those things had an article written about it? How have not, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like with other cases, it happens where it's like the people digging into it get the, you know what I mean?
Sometimes, but Operation Mockingbird, you know, you got these news organizations that are owned by essentially 2-3 companies. They seem or appear independent because the names are different, but they're all a part of the same conglomerate. And you have narrative control. I mean, a lot of journalists who've quit mainstream media, one of them specifically was Catherine Heritage. I forget, I don't know how to say her name. She worked for, I want to say it was CBS. She was one of the most respected reporters because she was very down the middle, just report the news. You know, she had a Supreme Court hearing because they took all of her reports. They took all of her files of a reporter when they fired her, and they held them. And she had to go to court to get her stuff back. And she won, thankfully, but it was super scary for her because she was reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop.
So this just came up in the Hive. Somebody said, sometimes I don't think we give SG enough credit. He probably is smarter than we think he is. Thoughts on
I don't
that?
know. I base intelligence on a couple of factors, and one of them is emotional intelligence. And to me, Steve is somebody that talks and thinks as an afterthought, because if you cared about this case being tried correctly, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, because you would know that it could possibly affect things like having the trial on time. You know what I mean? Because a defense wouldn't be asking for a motion for continuance if you weren't leaking things or running your mouth.
What if Steve, okay, so Phoenix just brought up a good point. Yep, because SG is thinking legally strategic. He's going to sue the pants off of Idaho for millions. Okay, what if he knows exactly, or what if he picked up on the fact, like, why are you guys telling me all this? He's like, you guys are telling me this for what? Do you want me to go out there and do it? Do you want me to do that? And maybe he threatened to do that because he has threatened to say, I'll be the guy, I'll do it. Especially in the beginning when he said he didn't know if they were doing enough. Maybe he took what he knew then and is now leaking it, knowing that it's BS, but maybe there was a hint of truth in it. Hence, what came out in Dateline clearly was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, you have to think, if you're strategically thinking of this, like if you're Steve, we know for a fact that he went to the feds to question them to see, because he didn't trust the investigation in the beginning. And he said, could you federally charge him with this if the state fails to meet their burden?
Wait, say that again.
Steve went to the feds, and in an interview, he said,
yes,
I asked federal investigators, could you federally charge Brian Kohberger if the state fails to meet its burden? Because he wasn't trusting how the investigation was going. So he wanted to make sure that at least somebody would prosecute him, or somebody would figure this out, and whoever did this would be brought to justice. If it's not going to be from the state of Idaho and, you know, the Latah County or Ada County, then it's going to be from the feds. But somebody's going to have to bring somebody to justice for my daughter. And then on the other end, he civilly is covering his bases by saying, if this goes sideways, we're suing the shit out of you. So you have a lot of bases covered there. And so either which way, you're not getting your child back. They're never coming back. So I think he's done a pretty good job of covering his bases for worst case scenario, no matter how this plays out.
Well, let me ask you this. I had Nash Graphics on, and she had a really good point about, because I just had somebody saying, like, if I wasn't guilty, I would look guilty because they'd have to strap me down on that chair like Hannibal Lecter. I'd be going apeshit in that courtroom trying to prove to everybody I'm not. Do you think Ann Taylor has had multiple conversations with Brian? Now, let's take him being on the spectrum off of it, which I know is hard because it's obviously a factor, but I'm saying for like the person who's not, how many conversations do you think an attorney would have to have with somebody to say, hey, just can you be patient and don't show emotion? Because I think it's going to end up helping him with how quiet and calm he's been.
I've said this for a while now in my TikToks. I've said, how strange is that we haven't heard a peep from this person who's been sitting in prison for this and has allowed this, like, you know, literal media firestorm on his character, on his family, dig up his life, make things like college papers seem nefarious. I mean, make running seem nefarious, make you wore a hoodie seem nefarious. It's wild how he's been painted. And I think he is a rule follower. He's somebody that's going to follow what somebody tells him to do. And he's doing it. And I think it's a smart decision. I also was wondering, now that this just popped in my head, if Steve really cares about the civil suit and is worried about the state screwing this up, what if it's really bad that if it comes out that he's the leaker and this implodes the trial and the ability to prosecute Brian Kohberger, and because if it's his leaks, now he can't sue because he interfered with getting a fair trial?
Well, that's why we were wondering about roles of the victims. I believe was the title of that meeting, correct?
What?
Wasn't the meeting where SG's lawyer was the only one there? Wasn't that something about like roles of the victims as well? In am I wrong, Hive? Or what was it where we had the roles of the victims and we started wondering what could that possibly mean? And I wonder if it's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe where my brain
I
was
don't
going was
remember
wrong on
that.
Yeah. But I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And somebody had asked, could Brian be speaking if he wanted to? I think the answer would probably be through his lawyer, correct?
I mean, most people just start frothing at the mouth and talking on their own. Like, look at Lori Vallow, can't shut the fuck up. And, you know, other people, like, they just don't, like, for example, Karen Reed did all these, like, press things after the first mistrial, and now it's being used against her in this one. So I know that you want a narrative out there, but they can slice and dice those clips any which way they want to make them seem however they want. And that's free. I mean, if a judge allows it, then that's going in. So you're just better off to do all your speaking through motions and legal filings and your pretrial conference hearings through your attorney, and shut up. Shut up.
Yeah.
That is my advice to anybody in trouble. Just shut the fuck up. Don't say anything.
Yeah, Shut the Fuck Up Fridays is a video that we play regularly here. And I had said, so yesterday, Sammy, I don't know if you had a chance because I know you were at that recital. I'd said, if you have time to watch through like the 10 bombshells that might turn.
Oh yeah, I didn't get a chance to do that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. One of them, the one that I was curious about is, I had said, what if Brian Kohberger takes the stand and to the jury, he's calm, he's cool, he's collected, he paints a narrative? Because my argument is, what is the state or any public opinion have left to change as far as their viewpoint of him? Or what could the state even ask him? The Hive came up with two things: a relapse and the alibi. That could hurt him. What are your thoughts?
And also his disability and how he comes off might hurt him if he seems odd.
But isn't that again a reason?
It's a 50-50 chance. And it's always okay. I come of two minds of this. If you're innocent, like I believe Karen Reed's innocent, and a lot of people wanted her to take the stand, but some people aren't logical. And so they will solely base their judgment on how they feel about you, the vibe they get from you. They're not reasonable people. They're 100% emotional people. So if they get a whiff of not liking something on you, it is not your burden to prove you didn't do something. It is just your burden to make enough reasonable doubt for a jury to think that it's not possible, or it's less likely, or there's enough reasonable doubt there to say that maybe he did it, but I can't 100% say, so acquit. And I will say, though, jurors do like, and everybody always says this because they want to hear from you. They do. They want it. They want the person who's accused of something to get up there and explain themselves. I mean, who wouldn't? But legally speaking, I wouldn't do it. If that's just my opinion.
Yeah, we kind of said it might, like the voting when I did the poll in the chat, it was like 70-30, saying 70 it could potentially help him, 30 no.
It could, I mean, there's always a possibility with potential, like that's the risk you run. But if it goes sideways under cross-examination, if you get a barrage of questions, and Brian, we saw how he behaved when he was pulled over, and he was very methodical with the police officer asking about not understanding why he was pulled over, because he went through the light, he sat at the intersection to make the left, somebody was behind him, so he couldn't back up, so he didn't understand why he was getting pulled over. And he was, you know, really methodical in his questioning, very calm, but was persistent because he wanted to understand where the police officer was coming from, and he still wasn't understanding it, so he kept asking questions. If you get somebody like that and you get a barrage of questions coming at you, you don't know how Brian's going to receive that, especially with autism. He might get so overwhelmed and completely fry, or he might get stuck or fixated on something and over explain, and it might look bad. It's just like I said, you're better off not taking the stand. That's my opinion.
So, okay. I think that you are exactly right. I'm trying to put my like attorney hat on. If I was defending him, I think a way to flip all of that, of what you just said, from a negative to a positive, is that Kohberger isn't, how did I say that? Essentially, it flips it where he was like, no, he's obsessive autistic criminology student. And then they bring forward journals, they bring forward surveys. And it's not that he was committing these crimes. He was obsessing on these crimes. He was looking into these crimes. And especially if you pair that with his ability to explain it, that might help him.
I agree with you. And I also think, too, that it might paint, if he comes off sympathetic, if he comes off as somebody who is innocent, like seems innocent, and has a reasonable explanation for his searches, or has a reasonable explanation for how he lives his life, and this just doesn't compute, right? And he seems like a, logical human being, not a violent human being, not a quadruple homicider, right? If a prosecutor is too aggressive against somebody that a jury starts to like, that goes really bad for them then. Because if you're an attack dog and you're attacking somebody that now a jury is sympathetic to, that makes you look, now they want to acquit him because they're like, you're picking on him.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, I would ask in the Hive right now, how many people in this Hive have Amazon click history? How many people have looked up a true crime case? How many people have looked up the opposite sex on Instagram? How many people have, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to say, like,
well, I was saying this to my fiance too. I was like, if people looked at my search history, all I do is true crime stuff. So I would look like a maniac.
Yeah.
I would look like a maniac. Like, why are you obsessively looking at this stuff? I mean, this is what I like to do, but I'm not. So God forbid our search. I mean, it is crazy to think that they could flip and turn anything. Like, just like with the papers, you're going to have his professor testify, on the witness list or whatever. That's another motion I want to get to is they were so they want, and this is, I wonder what this is going to be, but they want, and the defense and the state agree, and the court is going to pick a third party, a neutral party, to independently analyze a piece of evidence. And they also agreed to seal that evidence. So I don't know what it's going to be, but the defense attorney has formally requested that the court to issue an order to seal certain documents. And it's the defendant's motion and order for independent analysis of evidence. So the court is going to have to pick the third party to do it. And this is typically done to potentially challenge the findings of the state's forensic testing or to provide an alternative explanation for the evidence. So that's going to be interesting.
That is going to be interesting. Do you think, well, I guess, like, how do you see that playing out then?
Well, a lot of this has to do with that one piece of evidence that they keep labeling. And I wanted to know what you think this piece of evidence is. It's called, hold on, where is it? Get my notes. Okay. Okay, I titled this, "What is it?" So it's Exhibit S1 in the Idaho 4 trial, as discussed, appears, it's attached to the state's supplemental response to request for discovery regarding penalty phase expert. So they keep titling this evidence as S1. It appears in multiple motions from the state and the defense. It's sealed, but the judge has made some remarks in regards to this piece of evidence. And I have a couple of guesses what it might be, but I don't know entirely. Do you guys in the chat have any idea what this S1 evidence might be in the state's exhibits?
A lot of people are talking about that it's fingernail.
You think?
That's what I've seen, that probably 10 times scrolling by.
So I wrote Exhibit S1 in the Idaho 4 trial possibilities of what it is. I said it might be information related to the surviving roommate DM's phone and text messages. And because the exhibit was used during the grand jury proceedings and then was later requested to be sealed due to containing information previously under seal. The other thing I thought it might be is the Amazon purchase history, because Brian Koberger's subscription information and order from January 5th, 2022 to December 13th, 2022. The state intends to use this to show he purchased a knife sheath and sharpener, but maybe it has something else to do with it. Or I thought it might be an excerpt from the grand jury transcript that provides information. Yeah, that provides information related to the 911 call and its transcript or something like that, or some sort of information from the grand jury. Or it could be DNA and forensic evidence from the sheath.
Well, and as you did that, I asked AI what they thought it could potentially be.
What does it say?
The first option. So this is starting from 10. I said, give me the top 10. So the last of the 10, because it's going to go down. S1 could be government informant or protected witness. 9 could be surveillance from government tech, illegal or classified. 8 is evidence involving fraternity, a secret society, ritual components.
That's a stretch.
Yeah. Linked to other unsolved murders or patterns. Psychiatric evaluation, too explosive for the public. Academic research or profiler involvement.
Oh, we never got the behavioral analysts. They're what they said during this, because remember in the beginning they hired 2 behavioral analysts, sorry.
Yeah.
And then we never got that. Like, what did they profile before Brian was arrested? What did those say when they looked at the crime scene? That's a good one. I never even thought of that.
Involvement of LE in a cover-up. Involvement of a second suspect or accomplice, connection to a larger intelligence ops, Or the
Ooh.
number one thing is evidence exonerating Koberger, and they're hiding it.
Ah,
Wow.
that's interesting. Wow, that one's a lot better than mine.
Yeah, I use a couple different bots. So anyways, here's the most terrifying possibility. S1 contains something that blows up the entire prosecution, a time-stamped alibi, surveillance showing someone else, forensic evidence that doesn't match. If S1 is sealed not to protect the case, but to protect the system from public fallout, then what we're dealing with isn't just a murder, it's a cover-up.
Well, that's why I always said they definitely had those timing advance reports and the availability to get them. Because in the FBI's own documents, they state they have a manual, like the 139-page manual, where it says, oh, when we're going about getting timing advance reports from these cell phone records, AT&T specifically, we at the FBI can get them up to 7 years. That was their policy. They have a liaison who deals with the people at AT&T. So that might make sense.
Yeah, and also real quick, thank you to Lisa as well as Motoman and Motoman gave 2 super chats.
You know
rock.
what? What if it, remember how they said that there was mixed blood or something on the sheath? Now it wasn't just that stupid touch DNA or trace DNA, right? Like there was other stuff on there.
Dude, did you
What if
hear?
what if that's what they want to forensically analyze more? Like what if that's the independent analysis?
Oh,
I
dude.
wonder.
What? So Sammy, sorry, I was going to say it goes actually right along with what you finished there. I apologize for kind of
No, you don't apologize ever.
Okay, I'm not sorry.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be.
But no, I had Ellie Benevento on. She's an attorney. She told the story about the touch DNA. Did you see that TikTok?
I know that case.
Yeah, the homeless man who got the pulse oximeter on his finger, and then the same EMS worker went up the road, and he got charged with murder for touch and trace DNA. I find that so interesting because that would make sense to bring in somebody to independently look at it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we do have Bika Barlow who's going to be on that, but we also what was the other thing that I wanted to say? Hold on.
As you're thinking, I'm just going to read this. So I asked also, I also asked what kind of evidence gets labeled S1. It said here are common types of material that are sealed and might be classified under an S designation in court. Protected witness or informant info, sensitive surveillance or intelligence data. That can include data from classified tech, cell tower dump info, social media records obtained, federal surveillance, medical or psych evals, meaning the courts seal mental health evals all the time, especially if they contain diagnosis that affect legal standing, claims of government mind control.
But we're thinking that maybe that everybody's thinking, it's a psychological eval of Brian. No, I bet you it's one of the roommates, the surviving roommates, because Brian already had that motion and the judge quashed it because it wasn't reciprocal discovery. They said you can test him on the autism, you can test him on the ADHD, you can bring up the drug history, but you cannot do a DSM-5 test on him because the state didn't do a DSM-5 test. So that's not reciprocal. No, I'm not allowing that. So if it's a psychological or medical eval in evidence, it's not Brian's, it's somebody else's.
Wow. Yeah,
boom.
That is, yeah.
If these are
of
ifs.
Course. Right. And I also just, as I was scrolling too, obviously the national security thing got brought up. It says exculpatory evidence or national security risk. Some evidence that clears the defendant or implicates a powerful third party can be sealed to avoid disrupting an active investigation or to protect classified sources and methods. You ask yourself, why would exculpatory evidence be sealed? Well, the answer is when revealing it would blow open something far bigger than the trial itself.
Yeah, that's why we had to shoot Brenko Paca and I really think and this is known for years that the FBI does this, that to protect the bigger fish and their case, which remember, like we've said from the beginning, they were on the ground. They were already doing takedowns in the area of trafficking organizations, of violent criminal gangs, the Aryan Knights, the Fetty Bros, the CJNG is operating in that area cartel. So in my opinion, that would make sense too.
Dude, what if this number 5, Sammy, what if it is the snuff film?
Shit.
That would make sense to keep that shit sealed from the public out, like the fallout.
Like if they got the
If they have the video. You
if
know,
they have that feed.
Yeah, if they have the feed.
Or the feed of Fight Club.
Just something. I mean, it's again, we all know the rumors of OF and whatever, but I'm saying, like, man, what if it is? There's so many rumors that it was on film. I mean,
I know.
So pretty much it's just that whatever it is in this case, it's guessing that it's so sensitive it cannot be publicly disclosed.
Well, I do have some, I don't want to say good news, but like, it's not bad news. Of course, the state is objecting to the defendant's offer of proof of regarding alternate perpetrators and supporting evidence. So the state's motion, they're saying it seems, okay, so it relates to motion to seal filed by the state in response to the defendant's offer of proof regarding alternate perpetrators and supporting evidence. So the state is likely opposing the defendant's attempt to introduce evidence of an alternate perpetrator, possibly arguing the evidence is irrelevant, speculative, or lacks sufficient connection to the crime. But the court said only that he's agreeing to seal the state's motion and deeming the objection to the defendant's offer of proof of alternate perpetrators and defendant's evidence in support of the offer of proof for alternate perpetrators and detached exhibits as sensitive that should not be disclosed, but that doesn't mean the judge is throwing it out. He's just agreeing to seal it, and he is going to fuck with it, meaning he's going to consider the defendant's evidence, and I'm dying to know what it is. The state objected to the defendant's attempt to introduce evidence of an alternate perp and the evidence supporting that claim. The judge only ruled that it just must be confidential and sealed from public due to privacy concerns or sensitive information of potential harm it could cause if disclosed. So that doesn't mean that they can't offer it for evidence and bring it forth. It just means the judge agreed to seal it, and that's it. So that's good.
But what would that be?
I don't know.
Because to me, like, I hate to say this because it sounds so corny when I'm like, I've said it like the last 4 streams, like Ann Taylor's strategy, like if you've ever read Art of War, where it's like you look weak when you're actually strong, like, would it make sense? Because I doubt that she just got this evidence, right? I doubt that she just got this.
Whatever she offered in the sealed motion moved the judge enough not to outright grant the motion for the state. So that the state's saying, throw this out, judge. They don't have enough here. This is speculative, whatever. No, the judge said, no, I'll seal the exhibits. I'll seal the evidence. But this is going forward. We're talking about this.
So did Ann Taylor know the state would do that and know she'd have time to do that and get that in front of the judge then? Like, was she sitting on that?
I mean, I think she sat on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think she sat on a lot of things because she's afraid of, 1, the leaks.
Yeah.
2, like what are they going to throw in front of her? Because every time she gets or puts something forward, they just, like, you just see these flurry of motions from the state. Like, they always just have these, like, and the other part that drives me crazy is the state's, like, basically yelling at the defense for, like, we have to have this trial now. Yeah, we would have, except for you keep filing motions and we have to keep dealing with things too. So it's like, you're just as guilty for this trial not happening because you didn't turn over discovery, because you keep hiding the ball. So it's your fault too. If you want to blame somebody, blame. It's like ping pong. We're both playing here, bro.
Yeah, and also now Prime is apparently putting out a series. Amazon Prime is on this.
Wait, what?
That's what people have been saying now. Hive.
What are they saying?
That Amazon Prime is putting out a series, and the trailer dropped.
Shut the fuck up about this.
Yeah, that's. Provide some intel, chat.
Oh, Phoenix said, yes, I did a video on the Prime. No way. Who's playing the roles? I want to know who the actors are.
Well, is it a series or is it like a docu-series? Like, is it like an actual...
Oh, I thought it was like, you know how they did the Hulu series, or no, what was it? They did the OJ Simpson one. And they had like the Ross from Friends play Robert Kardashian.
Wait, that was actually a really good series.
I loved it. Cuba Gooding Jr. was OJ. It was so good. I was so into it. And I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be so corny because I've seen this. I've seen the OJ trial. I've rewatched it so many times. I've watched the whole Vincent Bugliosa, like how he would try it. I've watched everything you could think of on the OJ trial. So I thought this is going to be so dumb. And it was amazing.
Yeah. Somebody said Zac Efron. Is Zac Efron in this damn series with the...
Are they joking?
I don't know.
Who's Zac Efron? Is that Ethan?
Well, I mean, Tony always messes around. It's got some funny comments in here. So I don't know if he's serious.
Are they going to have Sharpay in that too?
It turns into, okay, this is dark humor, but it turns into a musical, and it's like,
oh yeah,
that's messed up. But anyways, I digress. So anyways, that is interesting. I mean,
we're all going to Linda Lane. We're all going to Linda Lane. Get your bean bags out and your knives too, and your.
Well, and people are asking me to pull it up. I can't. I'll get a copyright strike on that.
Oh yeah, probably.
So I won't do that. Otherwise, I would. Okay, so just going back to this S1 and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying sensitive DNA evidence that's possibly contradicting. But you know what is a really good
well, how would we know? The defense wasn't even allowed to test the sheath because it was too degraded, the sample, by the time I went through all these other labs and the FBI suddenly came up with a match, even though that wasn't what Othram said.
Right. Well, I mean, it is a good point to think about, though, Sammy. Like this, I would be shook if this is just some traffic cam footage or fingerprint analysis at this point.
I was always somebody said Buffy the musical. What a disappointment. I was so mad at that. I never missed 8:00 WB. I used to play softball, and I remember if my games ran late and I'd be sitting there in the outfield, center field, and I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm missing Buffy, because if you miss Buffy, you just can't pop it up on YouTube.
Your teammate makes an error. The inning goes on longer.
I'd be fuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but
so what? Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good.
This
is like I said, I'd be shook if this is just some traffic cam footage or
that's what I was going to say, is if you looked at all the traffic cams that were available before this happened, I was always like, why aren't we catching him on one of these clear ass cameras? Like the news cams, the traffic cams every morning. Like I watched local news on YouTube there, and they would show like this big split screen of all these traffic cams. And I go, he had to have gone down one of these streets, or else how would he get home?
Well, exactly. And I literally, my wife made the joke that catching Brian Koberger on camera is like whenever somebody catches Bigfoot on camera, it's like they recorded it with a fucking potato. like it's so true. You know what I mean?
It is.
Man, I love whenever this AI says, do you want me to look into court filings or FOIA requests that are tied to the S1? It says I've got sources, which again, it could just be talking.
You can't FOIA request it.
Well, I agree. That's why I'm saying, like, it says it, but it does sometimes bring up just great points about, like, talking points. And it says start with the timeline, the media blackout. There was 0 arrests, no clear suspect, vague statements, redacted warrants, media manipulation during the time, leaks that a white Elantra was seen, yada, yada, yada. We've said, why is the bureau on site for a local knife murder? The S1 appears in sealed exhibits discussed during pretrial hearings. The gag orders block not only media, but also victims' families from commenting publicly. That's rare. Over 90 search warrants were issued, many still sealed as of 2024. Here's where it gets real, is when Judge Megan Marshall sealed not just the S1, but entire motions, filings, and responses. That's not normal unless it does pose a threat to national security. It could influence an ongoing intelligence operation, or it completely undermines the state's case.
Yeah. I mean, that one warrant that was sealed, it was that first Amazon warrant that they're still asking for the subpoena.
Yep.
That first one.
I mean, okay, can we talk about this? Because this has come up quite a bit. It's been in the court documents as well that the defense was questioning why, right? As far as, was Kohberger being monitored before the murders? Like, if you think about that, what angle then could a defense say for that? Like, why were you monitoring Brian prior to any of this? And don't tell me it was some survey on Reddit when he lived in Pennsylvania.
Right. There had to have been a reason for the surveillance. So if it's a matter of national security, though, like, the feds can just basically tell you to fuck off. They don't have to give you anything. State and federal, like, you can ask. They don't have to give it to you.
Right. And I think Phoenix might have just maybe hit it on the head with, like, well, if he was buying drugs or relapsed.
Well, we all know.
The FBI? I mean,
but we do know that the DOJ, like that Josh Hurwitz, who's now on the case, part of his whole getting people and all these rings, all these takedowns of these drug rings, is that he was doing, controlled buys, like flipping, giving people really good deals. One of them, I think, might be Xana's mom. And then having them tapping their phones of these violent criminal gangs and doing controlled buys. I mean, you never know. Maybe Brian, but if he was a part of that, then he would have said that by now. Ann Taylor would have went about this differently. But that's not to say that they weren't surveilling him for a different reason.
Correct. And I think that this sentence here does sum up pretty much probably how everybody feels. And it's that the odds that the S1 is sealed because it doesn't fit the sanitized version of the crime, it's pretty high. That's probably a really big part on why it is sealed still, on the simplest level. Because it says the court... Go ahead.
Plus, when you get in this pattern of sealing things...
Right.
This S1 thing, I feel like, is the reason and the fallout for all the other things that are sealed, because this S1 thing shows up in so many motions. Yeah.
I want to talk about what the real school psychologist just put on the screen, where he says, are they really dead? Maybe BK is simply in protective custody. I got to tell you, if I was put into protective custody, but they chose to put me into protective custody in this manner, where, like, that would be the worst of the worst. Like, not only do you have everybody after you, but now you're put on every television in the world and everyone's talking shit about how weird you are.
Don't you find it odd that we haven't had any in-house, like, a lot of jail stories from BK, or like phone calls, or, we got leaked P. Diddy phone calls about 2 weeks from when he was put into custody, calling his sons.
Well, we had somebody on here that was at the arraignment, that's a local, and said that none of the cops were local cops. And then Phoenix and I were talking about that when he got perp walked, or even like when he was walking out, anytime he's walking, he's like protected by like some dudes. You know what I mean? They don't look like local cops. They look like operators. They got the big beards.
Do they
They're
look? Do
burly.
they look like the people that were next to Oswald when he got shot in the gut by Jack Ruby?
No, not really. But
I'm kidding.
I mean, oh man, that I could go down that rabbit hole too about all of that. But
So yeah, but you're saying it doesn't look like what is this? What is this?
dude, is this a psyop? We haven't touched on that in a while. Like, is this a psyop?
Well, what would be the
Is it all just a psyop for a DNA grab so that the feds can use the legal loophole to get your DNA without a warrant?
Well, this did usher in more credibility to genetic genealogy and literally banking on it to be the linchpin
right
to indicting somebody. And they actually only presented that evidence to a grand jury. So it's not even like it was stipulated against, or you could have cross-examination and another defense expert can argue about the reliability of this, sample that was then blown up. So what's it called when you the words escaping me?
Extrapolate?
No, when you multiply it, you're making it bigger. They made it bigger. They amplified it. Sorry, excuse me. Amplified the sample. So they didn't even allow, because it was in front of a grand jury, there was no cross-examination. Nobody from the defense side got to say, look at all the faults when you amplify this type of sample, this trace DNA sample that no other lab could get a hit off of. There's a lot of faultiness with this sort of practice that leads to false matches and misidentifications. None of that. And that still got to be put forward. So this did set a precedent for genetic genealogy, whether we like it or not.
There's no footage of the bodies. There's no crime scene photo leaks. There's no autopsy reports. There's apparently a private investigator that said that he got the CCTV footage from the highways that the coroner van would have had to have taken to the wherever they do the autopsies, the morgue or whatever facility it is. Never shows up on those.
It also is, I've never seen evidence torn down before trial.
When have you ever seen local cops move out someone's stuff after they were killed?
Like that? Like
Never.
I said in the beginning of this podcast, I don't understand why this wasn't separate. The evidence wasn't separated, put in, medical bags that are sealed so they could be tested and gone over, individualized. Like I don't understand how they're walking out with unmarked boxes jam-packed to the tilt.
With even survivors' boxes. Some of the boxes say bag.
While a bag of shoes that look like
and they're vitamins.
Nothing. And now those shoes are mixed with those shoes on top of those shoes. And you just decided to throw it in like a Goodwill donation? Like, what is this?
No, it's absolutely insane, because in high school, unfortunately, one of my friends had committed suicide. And I remember how traumatizing it was for his older brother, who was in my grade, that his family had to hire the cleanup company.
Oh, God.
And I know that's different if it's maybe suicide or homicide. But what I'm trying to say is it's not like a white glove service by the police when there's a crime in your house.
Well, first
you're
of all,
responsible for it.
And most likely if it's a murder, let alone 4, you have to get a court order to go do something in a sealed crime scene. It wasn't a sealed crime scene from the get-go, number 1. Number 2, when they quote unquote sealed it off, they allowed a cleaning company to come in there without a court order. Before they had a suspect.
Yeah, it's wild. And then also these have all been scrubbed. I did an entire presentation on it, but how there's people that have found alleged aliases to some of the roommates, facial recognition match, whatever. Take it with a grain of salt. Call me crazy. I don't care. But when I look at that shit, I'm like, again, I'm always on the side of, well, yes, I guess people could just be doing this for clicks. Well, then why would you do it anonymously? Is it to hide behind the anonymous thing so that people don't know who came from it, and then it makes it like this big deal? Yeah, of course. I'm acknowledging that that could be just that. But when you line it up with a bunch of other shit like we just talked about, you start to wonder, okay, I don't know.
I don't know. That one I can't think too hard on that one. Because I don't know. And I don't like to do, I mean, I could fuck with the idea, but it's like, I don't like to prove a negative sort of thing. Like, if I don't know, why am I, there's already enough here that we have to deal with where I'm like, maybe it's spinning our wheels, but this is a big production to be a PSYOP.
Well, and real quick before I make my next point, AA, thank you for tuning in. I hope you start to feel better soon. I am glad.
Oh, what's wrong with AA?
I don't know. AA says, Bertie, you guys are amazing. I've been ill for months, and this is the only thing that keeps me going. Well, I hope that you feel better. And
there's nothing more important than your health.
Yep. And to just go back to that point real quick, Sammy, of it being a big production. Not that I need to remind anybody in here, because I have gone on these
9/11
forever. 9/11, Gulf of Tonkin, weapons of mass destruction.
True.
You know, like, if you don't think that technology exists,
that's a production.
Yeah, like, I mean,
they're never going to touch that.
The Vegas thing.
That's true.
I mean, guys, they'll do this shit, and part of me thinks they do it as like they want to see how far.
So then that would be like, but what is it? Is it a ritual murder? Is it a PSYOP in the sense that we're going to blame it on somebody, but we really did kill these kids, but it wasn't for the purposes that we're ever going to tell you? Kind of like what is that owl god in the woods thing? What is that?
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, like kind of like a Bohemian Grove sort of deal.
Well, do you want to know what would line up with what you just said and what we were talking about? It would line up with maybe Washington State getting a shit ton of funding from the NIJ to do predictive criminal behavior or predictive behavioral criminal. I can't say the name of the study off the top of my head, but you guys, I've said it a ton of times.
I know what you're talking about.
It's like predictive criminal behavior analysis in a non-clinical setting in emerging adults. And it's like using AI, it's using geofencing technology. I mean, who's to say that IGG wouldn't have even been a part of that? So you want to look to see what would the public's reaction being, where now you have a record, they have your DNA or access to it. They can already geofence you. For God's sakes, you could walk into Jimmy John's, your phone beeps because they're geofencing your Jimmy John's app, and it tells you that you can get a discount on a sub. You don't think the feds could do that, where if they're like, hey, this person's genetics more likely line up, or their DNA line up with somebody who might be more likely to commit a crime if they cross this street, and based on their behavior and the AI predictive criminal behavior analysis that we just ran, we can actually arrest them prior to them committing the crime and then arrest them for just like being there. That's a deep, dark world. But guys, I'm just saying, we have
Palantir's on the rise.
Yeah, for God's sakes. I mean, and thank you, DB. I appreciate that. But, you know, again, people sometimes look at me like, you know, I'm crazy when I say that. But if I was to say, you know, 40 years ago, hey, your phone is going to unlock itself with a facial recognition, and you can FaceTime somebody over in Baghdad when they're serving for this country in real time, or like maybe that was a bad example, but you guys know what I'm saying. Mean. Yeah. Like, so
I like when I found out JD Vance worked for, you know, the CEO or whatever of Palantir, I was like, I bought stock in it because I was like, oh, they're going to be doing something. And sure as shit, that stock's doing great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man. Like even like the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker.
I don't, it's just like, what do you, obviously, but I'm worried about what that's going to lead to. But what else are we doing? It's a slippery slope. We already crossed it. We're not getting rid of those protections for 9/11. Like the Patriot Act is still not repealed. So wake up.
What do they say in The Hangover where he's like you can't even like whack off on an airplane anymore, and he goes like, "Thanks a lot, Bin Laden." Like, do you remember that? Have you seen that scene?
I love that movie.
Oh yeah. Okay, Sammy. Well, I think this is a good segue into, and I'll come back to that, into the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day.
Ooh,
now, it's okay. It's the
Okay.
subway smell, like the sandwich shop. Okay. It's chemical coercion. The smell is not natural. And you ever wonder why Subway smells exactly the same? Even though they make 17 different types of sandwiches, breads, meats, sauces, it's not coming from the food. According to multiple franchisee testimonies, the quote unquote bread smell is artificially enhanced through scent distribution vents, often tied into the HVAC systems. That's right. They're pumping that aroma like psyop gas pretty much, because it's not food smell. It's actually weaponized fragrance. The scent is the most primal brain trigger. Smell bypasses the rational brain and goes straight to the limbic system, the same area that handles memory, emotion, and instinctual behavior. That means you don't think about what Subway smells like. You feel it. It hijacks your fight or flight response and replaces it with a craving for 12 inches of fake ham and processed regret. It's not bread. It's actually an emotional override. But food scent technology is a real thing. Companies like Aromix, IFF, and Simrise openly work on scent messaging, emotive olfaction, and invisible branding through chemically engineered aromas. These companies can design a scent that stimulates buying behavior, reduces anxiety, or makes you associate the brand with nostalgia, safety, or hunger. The Subway smell, it's not an accident. It's a proprietary blend, likely involving synthetic comfort signalers, simulating fresh baking, and triggering hunger. Now, the craziest thing is that franchisees can't turn this off. They have to run it.
Okay. This makes sense for why we all wore Abercrombie and Hollister jeans.
Dude, that was a total thing. And their cologne
You
smell.
Go into an Abercrombie and a Hollister and it's like, hello, Y2K. It's like, I will wear jeans so low, it's barely covering my vagina. And it's all because of that smell. Like you walk in there and it's that smell. It's just like shirtless men and I bought shirts that were thinner than a dust rag and paid $50 for them. Slap an 1892 on the butt, the ugliest shit you'll ever wear, the most basic polos in the world. And we were all paying $50 to $100 for this crap because they pumped that smell. Now that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, what do they put in colognes and perfumes too? Like pheromones, right? Like, isn't there?
But like it's a specific. So like every time you go into an Abercrombie and a Hollister, it smells just like how you last left it when you were 16-year-old making minimum wage, buying those jeans, or in my case, having a friend who was a manager and steal them for you. But
I've never shoplifted. You know that? I've never shoplifted.
Oh, you're missing out. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a rush. It's a rush. You got to try it. I don't even know what
when I was young and poor, 5-finger discount was my fave.
I feel like the only thing that I've ever stolen is I worked the concession stand in 7th grade for a girls' basketball game. I was in student council, and I made myself a piece of Texas toast without paying for it as I was working.
I feel like this is how you lead up to like where you feel like ballsy enough to be a shoplifter one day when you're like young and poor and want something, is if you're the kid that goes through the bulk food aisle and will just start doing whatever. That was me. I was born to be a poor teenage shoplifter. I never got caught, but
ever.
This
is all alleged. This is all alleged.
Oh no, it's actually really true. One time when I was 19, I wanted this leather jacket so bad, but it had the ink thing where like you pull the alarm and the ink's going to spill all over it.
Did that happen to you?
It happened to me.
Oh shit.
So thank God I had a bunch of clothes in there with it. I just threw all the clothes on top of the leather jacket with the big ink stain on the seat and I ran out of there. Thank God I didn't get caught. But I didn't go to Macy's for a while.
Did you do it by yourself all the time?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I was a bit of a klepto when I was like a teenager. I stopped shoplifting when I was 21. So like from about 15 to 21, I knocked off a bunch of clothes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's like one of those things where I just feel like
It
if I do this-
was terrible. I would kill my daughter if she did that. But it's the scent thing too, where it's like you have to have these jeans. I could have bought cheap jeans.
So actually,
No, I
you might
wanted
have
that thing.
You might have a defense. You can say, no, the aroma literally got into my brain because they engineered this scent. It's a fake scent and it made me steal. There might be a case for that.
Well, I just think that it's I don't know why I wanted those jeans. Like now that I'm thinking about it, it's like why did I had jeans, there's cheaper jeans that fit just fine. Why do you want the expensive jeans that smell good? Like what's the difference? Cuz they have a special pocket, the buttons more amazing. They're all the same.
Well, speaking of like corporate tricks and stuff, I watched so I was on a TV show for Amazon Prime, like their business show. It's called Elevator Pitch. And long story short,
Well, that's cool. I like that name.
Yeah, so it's like a Shark Tank, but you pretty much you get into an elevator and you have 30 seconds to get your pitch, and then all the judges vote if the elevator doors open up, and then you step out.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was an awesome experience. I did get a deal, which is cool, but as I was preparing for that, I was watching a ton of like Shark Tank or other episodes of that, or just like random pitches online. I came across this product, and for whatever reason, it stuck with me. It was this girl who was pitching mirrors for department stores, and these mirrors would make you look better in the changing rooms.
Because I can tell you what will make you not buy something. Light up a dressing room like a hospital and put in a shitty mirror. I'm buying nothing from there.
Right.
The dressing rooms that are dimly lit, glamly lit, I'll buy whatever I love it because the lighting's good. Lighting is everything. Right now, because I have a sunburn, this lighting is horrible. Horrible.
Well,
I'm burnt to a crisp. You should see my legs. I'm like Sebastian the Crab today. So sorry, guys.
Well, to finish the whole point about like, would corporations do that? Would they invest in something like that? Here's what's crazy. All of the investors said no. Guess what? She got a deal off the show. If you go look it up, they publicly said, no, we think that is wrong. Yada, yada, yada. No, she got a damn deal.
Of course she did. Because it's basically like a filter for a dressing room. So that's why all these like
it is a genius idea, though.
It really is a genius idea because every Instagram influencer, which every teenager thinks they are now, they like that filter. They want to go into a dressing room and look filtered.
Exactly.
That's so smart.
It is smart. And Sammy, usually now I've been finishing with 10 minutes of Q&A from the chat. So if you
I would love that.
Okay, so Hive, fire away some questions. And Sammy, I'll put them up on the screen and we can kind of just tag team it. So you should be able to see them too.
Okay,
so
cool.
Phoenix had this idea to start doing at the end of the streams. So
I like questions from the audience. I love participation.
Yes, let's see what we got coming in the Hive. If everybody's caught up.
Coming in the Hive.
Oh yeah.
I want that conspiracy. I'm gonna have to order that conspiracy hat.
The tinfoil hat.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be one of my purchases.
Open Mind said I sent you an email. Okay, I will check that out.
Okay, how do we get the questions?
Well, they should be coming in the chat, but sometimes people aren't caught up to live, or people just either don't have any questions. Here, I'll put my email on the screen too, just in general.
What's the questions? Oh, why did the FBI tell MPD that MK was their guy? What is he talking about?
I think they meant to type probably BK. I would guess.
Oh, why did the FBI tell MPD that BK was their guy? Well, that's a great question because I feel as if the MPD was going down a different route, and I also feel like Othram was going down a different route. And when they took over that DNA, they also, don't forget, had that blood evidence. That there's a reason that they didn't put in that blood evidence into CODIS. And it's because the FBI told them not to. If I had to wager a guess, it's not this benign explanation where it's, we can't put it in because then it'll take up the last person. Like, what century are we living in? One at a time.
Yeah.
No.
I agree. Next one is, how do we explain BK's cell phone being in the area so much? I have a couple of thoughts on this. Mainly just like the simplest answer could be, did he know somebody in the area?
I have a better answer. It's because if you look at Andrea Burkhart, who's a lawyer, she lives in that area. She said that there is sparse cell phone tower coverage. So one tower could cover up to 25 miles. And you lose cell phone coverage a lot in that area, she said, because she hikes in that Wawawe Park a lot, where she says there's no cell phone coverage. None. And so she said that the reason why that it could seem like he's in the area a lot is because a tower covers a lot of area. And don't forget, WSU is only 20 minutes away. So it's like going from a suburb to a city, basically. And the shopping is better in Idaho, apparently.
Yeah. Well, that's I have heard that about the.
He also likes those specialty stores because he has a specialty diet, and the one specific grocery store is only in Idaho.
That's a good point. That's a good point. How do you explain DM would know that Xana's drunk if she never saw her all night and had so much to drink to say she was passed out?
Well, if the reason why I thought somebody was drunk is because I saw him face down on the floor, I wouldn't just ignore it.
Right. And if you weren't with them all night, how would you know or assume necessarily that they were just drunk?
I mean, is it normal for Xana to sleep face down on a floor?
Potentially covered in blood after being stabbed with a K-bar.
Oh, that blanket does a lot of wadding up, and
yeah,
it took care of all that, Birdie. The blanket.
Right. And L. Rigg said, if it is a cover-up, how far do you think it could go? I would say it's pacing at a pretty good pace to go pretty far, even with what we've seen so far.
I'd say it was a top-down cover-up. It's an FBI cover-up with local law enforcement mixed in, helping through that. They had that drug task enforcement, which was federal and local law enforcement and state. They were all worked together. It's a task force that was made, I want to say, sometime around 2016, 2017.
Do you know how I think you're going to know if this was a cover-up?
Huh.
If Brian Kohberger is fully exonerated and it's blamed on some sort of trial mishap, some sort of misstep by the police. I think it's a cover-up and they're just covering their asses. And now, I mean, I really do believe that that's the only way that a cover-up could end, with the redactions, the sealing, unless again there's just bombshell shit that we don't know about.
Well,
I truly believe that
we have that witness from Pennsylvania that's coming forward that they're subpoenaing, and that's mixed with the prima facie evidence. So that piece of it, I think that goes together. There has to be a reason why that was filed. It's two separate filings, but I think it probably goes together, which means on its face, that piece of evidence shifts the burden back to the state that whatever you're claiming, we have this witness and this piece of evidence that on its face appears to shift the burden back to you to prove that this isn't true.
Right. Oh man, there's two really good questions here. So this one too that we got on screen is good. Did the fact that someone allegedly sat down in a chair in Xana's room make you think one person stayed with the victim while another made victim 2 retrieved? Or like,
like somebody was sitting there held up while they were dealing with somebody else. I think that's definitely a possibility.
And then do you think that the DM text "I'm screwed" or "scared" misspelled could be "I'm screwed" instead of "I'm scared"?
I always thought it was "I'm screwed." I never thought it was "I'm scared." I was one of those people who said I don't think she meant to say scared.
Okay. And I got to check my email quick. Don't, Sammy, if you see comments in the chat that are questions, do you have the chat pulled up?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'll take a look.
All right.
Somebody said I reckon Kathy Mabbitt did it. I mean,
Well,
she didn't do a very good job getting to the crime scene. What was that? Do you think the 911 call was staged? Yes. Simply put, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think that the fact they were calling and there's police radio within like a minute and 30 seconds after the phone call was made, there's no sirens, no fanfare. It's very strange.
to whoever just told me to check my email, just give me the initials in the chat because obviously your
Any
YouTube
other
usernames.
identical murders in the state of Idaho like this? I think they were actually investigating Brian to possibly be connected to another murder, correct? And then obviously that was a bunch of BS, but that was
Yeah.
a big headline for a bunch of weeks.
Yes, it was.
Remember how stupid that was? I go, oh my God, these people are so dumb. Like they'll fall for anything.
Did they type? Okay.
Mabbitt is such a conflict of interest. Yeah, I agree with LC on that. Mabbitt is a conflict of interest. Her like whole I wear dual roles thing is so weird. I don't know like what kind of bumfuck town assigns those two conflicting roles to somebody, but that needs to change. Why do you think Payne was there the night they took out Brent Kopacka? Did you think that, Birdie?
Do I think? Sorry, I'm trying to read that email. What was the question?
It says why do you think Brett Payne was there the night that Kopacka was unalived?
I don't know how to answer it without just kind of like saying there's a reason. I just don't know what it could be. You know what I mean? I feel like there has to be a reason on the simplest answer. What do you think?
I don't know.
And also, I can't find that email. So
I do think it's a little strange that they both were veterans of the same, what was it, like class or brigade or whatever you want to call it.
The battalion or whatever.
Battalion.
Yeah. But regardless, so I think.
Wait, why didn't DM's dad tell her to call 911 when she was talking in between 7:30? Okay, more importantly, why after a night of partying are you calling your parents on a social media app?
Well,
if I ever did that, my parents would look at a beeping on my cell phone and they'd be like, what is this? They would have no idea what to do if they even knew how to answer it, number one. Number two, I want to see the historical, and this might be what S1 has to do with too, something with DM's phone. Like, what's the historical discovery of how many times you've called your parents on a social media app? Because it would sure be interesting.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting if the first time you used a social media app to call your parents just happened to coincide with the morning you found your fucking 4 roommates dead in their rooms. Because that would be a bit much to swallow, in my opinion.
Well, and on top of that being extremely weird, have you seen that video about how the only picture that they showed of all of the roommates on that porch, the metadata shows that it was posted at 4:57, but somebody actually switched their time in the phone to show Pacific time. And the Instagram metadata is permanent and is in UTC and does not change. So we were talking about this last night and it was like, so that to me screams premeditated. That to me screams somebody is familiar with this, like IT stuff. And somebody knew they would have to do it. And it's also weird that that's the only damn picture that the news ran with, was that one that it's like, oh my God,
yeah.
look, she posted it right before, but it was posted after.
That's wild. That's
It
why
is wild.
the narrative was already starting.
Yes. Well, Steve G was planting the narrative, in my honest opinion, outside the Moscow PD, when he started saying, maybe we can just start swabbing everybody. And Chrissy goes, like one of those genealogy websites. Friggin' weird. Yeah. So anyways, Sammy, any closing remarks?
Well, guys, thanks for putting up with my lobster face. I promise my days of kleptomania are over with long ago, but I enjoyed regaling my tales of thievery and appreciate you listening to any of my commentary. And I hope I explained some of the motions a little bit better. I know we didn't get to all of them, but some of them. And if you do have any questions on them, feel free to ask me on my TikTok account and I will answer any of your questions.
Yep, I just got her handle up there right now. So that's where you can find Sammy. Sammy's on every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central. So also, I will be on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central as well, going into the Hive Mind Finds. As a reminder, everybody, tomorrow is the close off for the first Hive Mind Roundtable on June 22nd at 7 p.m. That's a Sunday night. So if you're interested in being on the first Hive Mind Roundtable, which I think is going to be fun, Sammy, so we're going to have.
That is going to be so fun. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, you know, obviously there's a lot of people who have done a lot of digging on this case, and I'm going to have a handful of slides put together with random topics, and we're just going to kind of go hot takes. And what was your initial thought on this when the case happened? What is it now? And I've got kind of some guiding questions, but ultimately I just want to hear from the Hive. So
I really love the eclectic personalities that you bring together on your channel. Like, I find it so fascinating that we all have such really diverse personalities, but we are all very analytical and open-minded people, which is refreshing. And so I think it's going to be really fun to see everybody together. Like, I would love that.
I do. I think so as well. And I will show that video that I got. It's like a 23-minute video, I believe. Yeah, open mind. I see that. It's like a 23-minute video. I will play that tomorrow night. So with that being said, everybody, thank you all so much. Sammy, you rock. You crushed it as always. Thank you for the research on the court docs. And to everybody in the Hive, I hope you guys sleep good. And to my one mod, Festive, yes, we can chat. Just send me an email, birdiebombshell00@gmail.com. Let me know that it's you, Festive, with your username.
Okay, guys, wear sunscreen. Bye.
Yeah, all right. See you guys. Peace. Cheers, everyone.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.